Welcome to No Bunts, the show for the casual baseball fan here on the Athletic Network. Thank you for joining us. I am Tass Mellis. With me here in studio, the man making the magic happen, JD.
Hello.
JD, making the magic happen on a Sunday night, baby. Sunday night baseball.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tess. Thanks very much. Happy to be here, though.
It just feels like baseball on Sunday night. Had to get you in here, JD. We're going to wrap up the week with the 5 best things that happened in baseball this week. A player slid. His cell phone dropped out of his pocket. We had baseball wedgies. We had a reporter who injured himself pretty badly.
Yeah.
Is that part of the best things in baseball this week? Good question. Well, he jumped right back on the horse and started reporting as well. We had the perfect bunt. Got a report on that. We will talk about some serious stuff as well, not just the jokey jokes. The Atlanta Braves, who arguably are playing the best baseball in the majors, and also the New York Yankees, who inarguably are not playing well at all. They are struggling. And to talk about the New York Yankees, we've got Chris Kirschner of The Athletic on with us. Chris, Yankees beat writer. Sorry to bring you on during this troubling time, Chris, but appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for having me.
Thanks, Chris. And you know, before we start on the team, congratulations to you, because if people don't know, you were the Atlanta Hawks beat writer for several years, 4 years with The Athletic. Recently got the Yankees job, which you called your dream job. So how's the dream going?
Well, not going well. A lot of people around the team are calling me the human jinx. People don't want to stand next to me in the buffet line because they think I'm bringing bad luck. So not going well, but I mean, it is still a dream to be at Yankee Stadium and have that place essentially be my office.
Well, listen, you joined the Yankees staff, writing for them like a month ago. The Yankees were stinkier before that. So, if I understand that people are putting it on you, but it must be great to be in that stadium. You mentioned, you wrote on The Athletic how you were a fan. You were growing up. One of your favorite players was Paul O'Neill. And today, as we record here on Sunday, was Paul O'Neill Day in Yankee Stadium. How was it seeing his number retired there amongst the greats in Monument Park?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it was awesome because, as you mentioned, Paul O'Neill was one of my favorite players. When I first started playing T-ball back in 1996 now, 21 was the number I chose, and that was Paul O'Neill's number. But it was really cool. I mean, they had a few of the 90s Yankees in town. Nothing says excitement these days than the 90s Yankees. That's really the only excitement going on for the team. Bernie Williams was in town, Mariano Rivera, Jorge Posada, Andy Pettitte. Got a really good ovation from the crowd. Back in 2001, his final game at Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium, the crowd was chanting, Paul O'Neill. They did that a couple times, even throughout the game. But it was really cool to see that, especially for me, like growing up in the Bronx and, the Yankees back then in the 90s and early 2000s, they were the best team. They were the best organization around. But it's been a while since those good days have happened in the Bronx.
I like how we're making it seem like this team is last in the AL East when they've got an eight game lead on the Toronto Blue Jays after getting a victory today on Sunday as we record. They lost the first 3 to the Blue Jays. So, things are a little less bleak after today. But I was surprised, just going back quickly to getting Paul O'Neill's number up there in Monument Park. I was surprised they found room for him because the Yankees have the most retired players in the league. They've got 22 numbers up there now, plus Jackie Robinson's. I don't know how they found room, but they did. It is a beautiful display, actually, in the new Yankee Stadium. So it must have been a great atmosphere. I just want to go back just to your basketball and now your baseball writing career. What's the big difference, if there is one, between being in a locker room in the NBA and being in an MLB clubhouse?
I think the access is way better in baseball than it is in basketball. In baseball, you can really talk to anybody. I've had multiple conversations now with the hitting coach, pitching coach, pretty much anybody who's associated with the Yankees organization, if they're on the field, like they're fair game to speak with. When I was thinking about just like the access differences, I was thinking to myself, like, would I ever be able to talk to Trae Young or John Collins on the floor, like prior to the game? No. Nate McMillan, the head coach of the Hawks? No. Whereas in baseball, like, you can interview players in the dugout, you can interview them on the field right next to the batting cage. So I think that's the big difference. As when it comes to the two sports, I think they're very similar with how I approach the job. Yes, I grew up a Yankees fan, but I try to approach the job as objectively as possible, even though that, I grew up in the Bronx. I was born in the Bronx. I lived here. I try to approach the job like I have zero connection to the team, and that's what I've tried to do so far. I mean, the team stunk through my 3 weeks on the job, and I have to report that. So I think that part is the same, whereas, with the Hawks, I didn't have any connection to them growing up, but I still approached the job the same way. But I think the biggest difference, though, is certainly the access is better. Even though, like, prior to the games, when I'm inside the clubhouse, the Yankees have a tendency to not actually be in there. So I have to get a lot of my interviews on the field or on the road. The road access is way better, and that's really the same in the NBA. More guys are just inside the road locker room as opposed to the home one.
That's one thing I enjoy about your writing, is that you leave the bias at the door. Even when you were with the Atlanta Hawks, I know there were people mentioning to you, hey, why didn't you vote for Trae Young for All-NBA? And you brought it and you said, I am a writer for the team. I'm not a fan of the team, and I appreciate.
Well, I did vote for Trae for All-NBA. They were mad because I voted him third team instead of second team, which I think is the silliest thing. He's one of the top 15 players in the league. It's an honor. He still gets his max money regardless if he's first team, third team, doesn't matter. Oh, so
maybe it was last year. I don't know that.
I also voted for him last year as well. Oh,
okay. Hey, you're a fanboy, Chris. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You lose either way. Trae Young deserved it this year for sure. He's been obviously a light here with the Atlanta Hawks, being an Atlantan down here. And I say a light because they've had their ups and downs. I wonder, do you find it more, what's the word, more gratifying or more fulfilling, or just a bigger challenge, I guess, writing for a team that's struggling versus a team that's good? Is it more fun for you to sort of, to go through it with the team when they're struggling versus when they're good, when it's probably easier to write something when they're playing really well?
Yeah, I mean, in my first 2 years covering the Hawks, they won 20 games that first year, 29 the second. But there were no expectations for the Hawks. They were built to lose. They were built to accumulate draft picks. Whereas the Yankees, there's expectations to win the title every single year, even though it hasn't happened since 2009. The expectations don't ever change with the Yankees. So like right now, when they're 5-14 now after today's win against the Blue Jays in the month of August, I think it's more challenging because of those expectations. Like, these players are expected to perform at a very high level, and many of them simply are not. So it's kind of hard to talk to those players, for me especially, because I'm jumping in the middle of the season. None of them know who I am. None of them know what I'm about. And at the same time of their struggles, like, I have to somehow build at least a surface level relationship with these guys to tell the best stories. So that part is extremely hard. Also, like, there's just way more coverage of the Yankees. I'm trying to think, today there are around 20 reporters covering the team, whereas with the Hawks there were maybe, I don't know, 5-ish. There were only 2 reporters on the road, me and Sarah Spencer, who now covers college football for the AJC. So it was just easier to cover with fewer people. Now it's 20 people. I can't ask all the questions that I want just because there are way more people around. So I think that's probably the hardest thing. But And I also think it's hard for me to jump into a new sport. I've never covered baseball before. Baseball is my favorite sport. I played it all my life. But there's still things like you don't know. Like I never played on the professional level or the collegiate level. So there are a lot of little intricacies that I just don't know. But I also think that's helpful because if you approach the job not knowing anything, I think most of the time people respect you, and they don't appreciate when, reporters try to act like they know it all. Like I've always approached the job acting like I don't know anything and I want to learn. So I think for me, that is a thing that I feel like has helped me since I've become a professional reporter.
All right. Well, with this team, as you said, 5-14 in August, 18-27 since July 1st. I know you wrote yesterday, this isn't a blip. This is a pretty large chunk of the schedule where they have been struggling, like almost 30% of the schedule since July 1st where they've been struggling. Is the concern that these are the real Yankees that we're watching right now, or is that other 70% of the Yankees season the real Yankees?
I mean, I think it's certainly in between. I don't think they are a team that was on pace for, what was it, like 120-ish wins at one point of the season. Now I think they're just at 100 or just below 100. So, I mean, I think for the Yankees, they're not this team that they've shown recently, especially in the month of August. I think it's just a combination of them not hitting really at all. Even in today's game, they needed a late home run from Andrew Benintendi. They scored early off of a Blue Jays error. They're not really hitting well in those situational moments, especially with runners in scoring position. I think for now, it's, what are we, August 21st, we're recording this. It's still like, we still have like 40 games to go in the season. I think for the Yankees, they have so much talent on both sides, pitching and on offense, that I think they should be fine. If they lost to the Blue Jays today and got swept and the lead was down to 6, I mean, I definitely think there's reason to be concerned and panicked over the possibility of them, losing the East. They still play the Blue Jays 3 more times. They still have several more matchups to go with the Rays. The Orioles are hot. They still play them. So I think like the East is certainly not over with. I think it's going to be hard for any of 3 of those teams to actually win the division. So I think that's wrapped up. But looking forward, I mean, obviously with the Yankees, the conversation is always about the postseason. What can they do there? I think when we get to the ALDS, they should be able to beat any of the teams that they could possibly match up with. Toronto, Baltimore, if they get in there, Seattle.
They got to be a little scared of the Jays, though, after this weekend.
I mean, I think with Toronto, they play them so many times that they know each other very well. I think out of all the teams that they could possibly play in the ALDS, Toronto would be the team that, if I was the Yankees, I'd be the most scared of. Cleveland, Minnesota, Chicago, if they somehow turn it around, like I wouldn't really be too concerned. I think Toronto's probably the one team in the ALDS that the Yankees should be scared of. But I think all the focus is really on, can this team actually beat the Astros? Right now, I don't know if they can beat the Astros with how they're playing and what we've seen recently.
Yeah, the Astros are playing absolutely incredible. Good thing for the Yankees, though, the Blue Jays got their Kawhi Leonard moment out today because that was a wild home run. Whit Merrifield hit into right field. Never seen a ball bounce on top of the fence twice. If you're watching with us on YouTube, I call it a Kawhi moment because it literally bounced twice on the fence before going out. It was wild to see. The Jays, I think would be more confident facing the Yankees than they would be against the Astros after seeing this weekend. But yeah, the Yankees have lost 6 straight series. As you said, 40 games to go. It's a long season. But what is the number one biggest concern that you've seen here over the last 3 weeks since you've been with them, but 6 weeks since they've really been struggling?
I think the number one concern is just the amount of players who they should be counting on just not performing well. Josh Donaldson's one of those guys. He hit the walk-off grand slam the other night. I thought that was the possibility of them potentially turning their season around for what they've been struggling for, almost 2 months now, and then they lose 3 straight. But he's someone who they are paying to perform at a much higher level, and he just hasn't. Gleyber Torres, their second baseman, he hasn't really hit well for several weeks now. He's someone that they've been trying to rely on, and they haven't. Anthony Rizzo's gone through a stretch where he hasn't really hit well. I mean, there are several guys on the Yankees, Aaron Judge included, who've struggled. I'm not really concerned about Aaron Judge, but there are just several offensive players who haven't hit well. And when you go into the postseason and you face a team that has 2 or 3 really good starters, and these guys are still not performing come October, that's concerning. I also think it's a little bit concerning that, Garrett Cole, who's supposed to be their ace, he's had some games where he's been absolutely incredible. Like when he's locked in, he's one of the toughest pitchers to go up against. But, I think for the Yankees, like they need to see more out of him, especially come October. I think a lot of Yankees fans are still thinking about his performance against Boston in the wild card game last year, and if that's going to continue into October this year. I think they just need more out of him. But I think for now, if Aaron Judge is slumping at all, like where's the offense coming from? And that's what we've seen recently is Judge has gone through a little slump, and there's really no offense around him to pick him up. Because so many guys throughout the lineup are struggling. They had to bench Aaron Hicks for several games, who has been a disaster really all season long. And Andrew Benintendi, who hit the go-ahead home run today, since coming over from Kansas City, is hitting under 200. So there's really just nobody other than DJ LeMay, who's been pretty solid, who has had a consistent streak throughout these past several weeks now.
Well, manager Aaron Boone had enough on Saturday after the game. Was so angry that he hammered the table. My question is for you, during that press conference, were you in the room? And if you were you startled when he hammered that table?
No, I was not startled. I actually thought it was pretty funny. I mean, just from watching numerous press conferences of Boone's when I was a fan, I don't recall him ever having that kind of emotion. He's usually a very outwardly calm guy, but like knowing Yankees fans, I know they definitely eat up any sort of performative act like that where someone is angry. Like even today when Garrett Cole was 50 feet away from Alek Manoah after he hit Judge in the elbow with a pitch, and it's like, are you really actually going to do anything? But Yankees fans eat that stuff up. They love that, and they love the drama. So no, I mean, I wasn't startled. I honestly thought it was funny because it did seem like a little bit of an act, but as a writer, it's like, oh, like now we can use this because it's great fodder for the fan base.
You're like Kobe with Matt Barnes shoving a ball in his face, standing there stoic. I mean, I would have been rattled for sure. It did seem like, you're right. I think Boone was doing something, anything to try and rally the troops because his team is so freaking good. All that talent that they have in there. It is odd seeing Aaron Judge back to him in his chase for 60 in a bit of a slump because he's been sitting on 46 for a while, which is, odd to say. The dude is, screaming towards 60 home runs, but he is, it hasn't been his best couple weeks. He hasn't homered in 9 games. Are teams pitching him a little bit differently recently?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that he and Boone have talked about. They're pitching to him much more carefully. They're picking their spots. And I mean, I think for him and the Yankees themselves, with how badly they've been playing, I mean, they're not going to say that he's pressing, but I mean, I think it's certainly a fair thing to wonder if he is pressing because a lot of pressure is on him to get the Yankees out of this rut that they're in. So I think it's a combination of pitchers being much more careful with Judge and picking their spots. And I think it's also a combination of him trying to create production because they just haven't had any. I think something that he said yesterday when he was speaking with reporters after the loss on Saturday is that he feels that for the Yankees over these past several weeks now, he said that one of the things that he thinks is going on with the team is everybody is trying to be that guy when they're in the box, that guy who turns it around, that guy who sparks a rally, that guy who, is the difference maker for them going on a 5, 6, 7 game winning streak. Instead of just doing the little things necessary to just get on base or create a rally, instead of trying to get the big shot. So I think for the Yankees, again, with what we saw in the first 3 months of the season, with how they were playing, especially offensively, I do think that eventually, especially for Judge, like it's going to turn around. Like these guys are incredibly talented. They have, when they're all in sync, they have one of the best lineups in the league. So I think it's just a matter of time until they turn it around. I know they have Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom Monday and Tuesday in a 2-game set against the Mets. But after that, they have 7 games against the A's and the Angels, 2 teams that they should beat up pretty easily. And for the Yankees, I think they're hoping that they can figure out the offense at that point. And Giancarlo Stanton, who's making a rehab assignment this weekend with Double-A Somerset, he should be back for the Oakland series. So I think they're hoping that by the time that series begins on Thursday and then going into the Anaheim series, that they have that figured out by then.
Yeah, Stanton coming back should definitely help. Their Double-A team is called Somerset?
Somerset Patriots.
Wow. It's a great name. That's a very good name. I'm not into the sabermetrics, the hardcore analytics in baseball, but I did see this regarding Judge on the Blue Jays broadcast. They noted that he has struggled against the off-speed pitch, which is classified as changeups or split finger. And I was on StatCast looking this up. Didn't think I'd ever see the day where I was on StatCast, but it's true. He's hitting 171 against split fingers or changeups or forkballs or screwballs, but I don't think anyone throws those. And he's only at 289 slugging against those pitches. Now, obviously pitchers can't throw those all the time, but I thought that was an interesting stat, that there seems to be something that can get out Aaron Judge, and seeing him strike out against the Jays a couple times today. And we had that little quick little fracas there when Alek Manoah hit him. That was maybe he's pressing, but he doesn't look like Aaron Judge recently. But yeah, I guess that's basically the old adage: hitting is contagious, and so is not hitting. They are struggling up and down the roster, and it got you tweeting something which I found pretty funny. You tweeted on Saturday. You said, "This is pathetic." So what's the most pathetic thing about the Yankees right now?
I mean, I think the most pathetic thing is, like, they're the Yankees. Like, they should be fun. They should be exciting to watch. They should be mashing balls all over the park, and they're just not. They're just really boring to watch. It's boring to watch games when a team is not hitting, and it's not that the pitching is dominant. It's not like they've been facing deGrom for 6 straight weeks every time they're on the mound. I mean, no offense to Jose Barrios, but he's no Jacob deGrom, and they made him look like Jacob deGrom the other night. So I think that's just the frustrating part about just watching this team right now. It's just, no matter who's on the mound, it feels like they're all Cy Young candidates, and it's just not exciting to watch. And that's not me speaking as a Yankees fan. It's me like wanting to see exciting games, and like they're not really exciting games. Even today's game that they won for 7 innings, they needed help from the Blue Jays making an error from center field, and it advanced Rizzo to score on a single. I think it was like in the first inning. it's just not an exciting brand of baseball to watch. And I think that's really the most frustrating and most pathetic part about this is, they have a payroll that's $252 million. And I would, some of these nights I would much rather watch the Little League World Series because it's more exciting.
Yeah, I saw that clip of Yankees fans turning the outfield into a barber shop, cutting a fan's hair there because they were that bored. Oswaldo Cabrera, though, he's fun to watch. He's a blast to watch. And as you said, Stanton coming back. Potentially Harrison Bader to come help out. Actually, I wanted to get to him because at the deadline, they got rid of some pitching, trading Jordan Montgomery for outfielder Harrison Bader. Bader hasn't played a game for the Yankees quite yet. You questioned, why would you give up pitching? Why give up something that you just can't have enough of? They seem to have enough, but it was just for the depth factor that you'd keep Montgomery around. Bader could help out in the lineup. You had a funny interaction with Harrison Bader regarding his injury. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Okay, yeah. See, I'm prepared. Don't worry, I'm prepared.
I don't.
So you tweeted Harrison Bader on adjusting to the Yankees while being injured. It's definitely been a challenge walking in here in a boot. I'm sure everyone here is like, we traded for a guy in a boot?
Yes. yes, I do remember that. That was really funny because, I think everybody was thinking that. Like, this guy's in a boot, and we just traded away one of our starting pitchers for a guy who is in a boot. He can't play. So I think he realizes that. But watching Aaron Hicks for the past several weeks, I think it's pretty clear why they traded for Harrison Bader now. When he's healthy, I think Hicks is just not going to play. And I think there's definitely a chance if Bader's healthy and Matt Carpenter gets back, that Aaron Hicks, who they signed for 7 years, $70 million deal, is off the postseason roster. So I think it's pretty clear just watching where Hicks is at, both mentally, competitively, physically. I think that is the reason why they traded for Bader.
As you said, yeah, a couple games with the Mets, very exciting stuff. And then it gets a little bit easier, the A's and the Angels after that. So we will see if that's even the Mets series. I'm here in Atlanta. They struggled against the Mets a couple weeks ago. Then they have the Mets come to town and they take care of business with the Mets. Sometimes playing a good team can turn your season around, although it didn't work against the Jays, who are a good team. They should be classified as a good team. But anyways, congratulations, Chris, and hopefully you'll come back when these Yankees, we'll keep it positive, when they turn it around later on in the season. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Great to talk to Chris Kirschner, Yankees beat writer for The Athletic. We got to take a quick break, but we'll be talking about the Atlanta Braves and the 5 best things that happened in baseball this week right after the break. I ran my first half marathon recently. I have 3 people to thank. First, Danielle, my wife, because I run slow. So while she's taking care of the kids, those miles they're not ticking off too quickly. Thank you, Danielle. I got to thank J.E. Skeets. He runs so much, it probably just sort of seeped into me. Just a little running osmosis, I guess. And the third people I want to thank, all the people at Peloton. Because I've never really been much of a long-distance runner, but I'm in such a groove with Peloton strength that every time I went out for a run, I felt strong because I was working out with Adrian Williams. I was working out with Jess Sims. I had a good base to start from, it felt like. The strength classes always keep me coming back, always fresh. I like Adrian's workouts. I like Rebecca Kennedy's functional training. She keeps it unique and fun. Not just boring stuff. And I like Jess's music cuts. You would love the audio cuts on Jess Sims, JD. Yeah. We're always working out to the beat. She always drops the part that you don't need. It's perfectly curated, perfectly edited. And Jess herself isn't a runner, actually, but she recently ran her first marathon.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of inspired me. She had somebody greet her at every single mile marker.
Wow, she's got 26 friends?
Yeah, 26 billion friends. Multiple people. Now, I didn't have that, but I did have one person. There's my Go Dad sign my daughter made for me. So that kept me going. Yeah, I'm putting this in front of my face right now if you're watching on YouTube because I am shedding a tear behind this. But anyways.
It looks like it might be covered in tears.
Yeah, maybe. That's sweat. That is definitely sweat. Peloton has training programs to help build to any running distance, by the way, whatever you want to run, so you can take those classes. It got me going, that's for sure. Peloton, motivation that moves you. Anytime, anywhere. Try the Peloton bike or tread risk-free for 30 days. Learn more at onepeloton.com. New members only, terms apply. Welcome back to No Bunts. I want to talk about those hot Braves. Envy of the league, some may say. To talk about them, we've got David O'Brien of The Athletic, Braves beat writer, also co-host of 755 is Real podcast, along with former Braves reliever Eric O'Flaherty. Love listening to that. David, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, the Braves, man, what a couple weeks we'll make. You know, just there's this a great feeling after taking care of the Mets 3 of 4, then 2 of 3 with the Astros here as we record on Sunday. I feel like they're playing as well as anyone in baseball. And thinking about going back to last season, obviously they were World Series champions, but at this point of the season, through 120 games, they were just sort of peeling away from 500. So can you compare the locker room at this point of the season now compared to last year?
Well, they had a great clubhouse both years, and I think that was why they were able to overcome that kind of treading water for so long last year. And had so many injuries, including losing Ronald Acuna, who was playing at an MVP caliber rate before he got hurt right before the break. But I think it was having such a great clubhouse really allowed them to get through that last year. They never got down on themselves. I kept talking to Charlie Morton about it, and it was his first year with the team, but he just kept talking about what a good room it was and how they still believed, even though they realized people were getting frustrated and they hadn't done it yet, they still believed they had that run in them. And then, of course, they added Jock Peterson coming out of the All-Star break, and then they made the trade for 3 more outfielders at the trade deadline, and it ended up what we all thought was kind of overkill. Why are you trading for so many outfielders? All of them ended up having a huge part in the thing down the stretch, and all of them also fit in really well into their team chemistry. So that was a great clubhouse with Freddie Freeman and all that. But this is, too, the guys they brought in have all fit in really well. They've had if there's been one factor that's bigger than anything in their turnaround, because they were, about 4 games under 500 at the end of May. If I could point to one factor, it would be the arrival of Michael Harris II, the center fielder, who has played just the best center field I've seen since Andrew Jones, and also been far surpassed expectations at the plate. They thought, if he could keep his head above water, his defense will be good enough to warrant him being here. But instead, he's been one of their best hitters, and he's been the best hitter in clutch situations, high leverage, late and close situations. He's got the highest OPS in the majors in that period.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's been tremendous. And then also, obviously, Vaughn Grissom, they just brought him a couple weeks ago. He's been terrific. And Spencer Strider, after they moved him from the bullpen to the starting rotation at the end of May, or about the same time as the Harris move, he really solidified the back of that rotation. So those 2 rookies, Strider and Harris, have been at it for 3 months now, been terrific. And then Grissom came up and really filled a need at second base. So those guys have added a lot of energy and to a positivity that was already there, but they've added some energy, and everybody seems to have more of a bounce in their step since especially Harris, since he took over and centered, and it's been. I wouldn't be surprised if at all he wins a Gold Glove as a rookie. I really wouldn't.
Wow, amazing. He's definitely the favorite for Rookie of the Year in the National League. It's such a good story, too. Local boy here in Atlanta. He was at the parade last year as a minor leaguer, and now he's with the big club, 70-odd games, and Alex Anthopoulos signs him to an 8-year deal. That just doesn't happen in baseball. No. A 21-year-old to such a lengthy deal. So
youngest player in the majors.
Right, yeah, and Vaughn Grissom, now they got 2 of the 3 youngest players out there. So he's obviously, if you're calling him a Gold Glove winner, he's Rookie of the Year as well, I imagine.
Yeah, I would. I think it'll probably be close to unanimous if he keeps playing at this rate by the end. But if there's right now, I would think Spencer Strider is probably second. They'll probably 1-2 like they were when they had Kimbrel and Freddie Freeman 1-2 in the Rookie of the Year. I would think right now those two probably are. Early on, a couple of the Cubs, a couple other guys were playing really well. But once Harris had about a month under his belt, he has kind of put those guys in his wake. And Strider is going to have the highest strikeout rate ever by a rookie if he keeps up close to this. Right now he's like 7/10 of a strikeout ahead of Kerry Wood, who set the record at 12.9. Strider's at 13.6. He's going to have the highest strikeout rate of any Braves starting pitcher ever. Rookie, future Hall of Famer, anybody. So, I mean, he's been terrific.
That's
that
amazing.
guy has.
Yeah, people continue to expect him to fall off at some reason. I suppose because he hasn't done this before, because he was a reliever at first, I suppose, but he just keeps on impressing. And hopefully we'll see him get postseason starts as well. It's so interesting watching Vaughn Grissom these last couple weeks. He's sort of taken over the storylines. He's been literally in the majors for 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He's just so impressive with his patience at the plate. I mean, he's got an eye. He struck out on a pitch looking today as we record Sunday that was out of the zone. And I think he's almost going to get that respect where if he takes a pitch, it's out of the zone. He's 21 years old as well. I know people are putting him into the long-term lineup here with the Braves already, but short-term here, when Ozzy Albies comes back, he's their starting second baseman. What do you see Grissom's role as these next couple months and into the postseason?
It's a great question, man. It's going to be tough because I see him as a future left fielder, but he hasn't played it at all. And while the Braves are bold and they make moves, and they brought up Austin Riley a few years ago after only playing him a handful of games in the outfield down at AAA, this kid literally has played no outfield. So would they make that move in the middle of the season? I don't know that they do it without sending him down to play at least a handful of games in AAA in left field. And they also have Eddie Rosario, and Grossman is playing well. So they really don't have that need that they did before in left field. So I'm not sure what he's going to be able to, how they're going to use him. They could obviously use him as DH, but Ozzy won't be able to play every day right away, coming back from that broken foot probably. So it'll be interesting. I mean, usually, as Snit says, these things take care of themselves because somebody gets hurt, somebody slumps, somebody does something, but somebody gets arrested. Fortunately, that happens rarely. But I don't know what they're going to do, but if he keeps playing like this, they're going to have to find a way to get him in the lineup, of course. I mean, he could fall off. You don't even know. He could go through a horrible slump once teams figure out. I mean, these teams are getting their first look at him. They had no book on him at all. He came straight from AA. I mean, he hadn't even played in AAA. So I'm not going to get carried away, but I do think he's a future left fielder. I think they'll get Dansby Swanson signed to play shortstop, and I think this kid will probably move to left field. He's built more like an outfielder anyway. He's probably going to outgrow shortstop. He's about 6'3", rangy, and looks like he could easily put on 20, 25 pounds. And probably doesn't have the range to play shortstop in the majors, and he's too big to play second eventually in the majors. And they got Ozzy Albies lined up long term, so it doesn't matter. So, and they thought maybe he could move over to third base when they first brought him up, but after Austin Riley signed a 10-year deal, that's out of the question as well. So it's basically, if they re-sign Dansby, it's basically left field. I mean, and that's where I think he would fit best anyway. So, but to answer your question, when Ozzy gets back, I'm not sure what they're going to do.
Is very, very interesting.
Good problem to have.
Great problem to have here that they're rolling with. As I said to start the segment, the Braves sort of envy of the league to some degree because they are doing such a good job at locking up their players long term.
Team-friendly deals left and right. Man.
Very friendly deals. And so that's why I came up with this little diagram here. If you're on YouTube, I'm going to show this to you here. The Atlanta Braves have locked up players behind the plate, Contreras, till 2027. Matt Olson, 2030. At second, Ozzy Albies till 2027. We'll get to shortstop in a second. At 2032, you've got Austin Riley at third base. 2028, Acuna and right. 2030, Michael Harris just signed that 8-year deal. And the left field shortstop position, as you mentioned there, Dansby Swanson, a free agent, come this offseason. But I think you're the only one who suggested that Vaughn Grissom isn't necessarily just going to take that spot, that he could just go to left field and you re-sign Dansby Swanson, who's been phenomenal with Vaughn Grissom here, joining the clubhouse the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of people that think that Vaughn Grissom will just slip into shortstop. Well, he's not going to be as good a defensive shortstop as Dansby. There's no way. And I think that Dansby has become a Gold Glove caliber guy. I don't know that he'll win one this year, but he's playing that level of defense. I just think you keep losing a piece of this culture, this vaunted chemistry that they always talk about, and which has helped them become such a good contending team every year. They won 4 straight division titles, and a lot of that has had to do with having great leadership, great team chemistry. You lose Freddie Freeman, you bring in another great guy in Olson, but he's not a leader type guy, a talkative guy. Maybe he'll grow into that, become that, but he's not that guy. Austin Riley's not that guy. They're not loud vocal guys. Dansby Swanson is an integral part of this thing, and he's an Atlanta guy, and he is the undisputed captain of that infield. I mean, he sets up people. Ron Washington trusts him to set up guys. That's how well he knows the defense. And he's also become, this year he's having a great year, his best year in a walk year. He's also become one of their best clutch hitters. He's a solid hitter. He's still a little streaky, but not like he used to be. And he plays every day. I mean, literally every day. He's played all but like 3 innings this year. He played every game last year, started every game, 160 last year, then all 60 the year before that. So I just think this is a guy that you can't, if you got to maintain a string through your to maintain that culture, he's the guy that I think is the connecting tissue that you could sign if you can get him for. They haven't gone over $22 million a year, amazingly, with any of these deals. The Riley contract tops out at $22 million a year. Olson's does. The kid, his doesn't even. Harris's doesn't even. He goes up to $12 million, then 15 and 20 for 2 option years. But his before that are way low. So I think if you could get Dansby at like 20, 21 million a year, he would fit in the payroll still, and they still would have room in the payroll if they wanted to sign Max Fried, I think, sometime. But they could afford to re-sign Dansby as long as he's not asking for, $25 million a year.
Yeah, the Freddie Freeman connection, I mean, that sort of role, as you're mentioning, is really interesting because I think the talk about letting Dansby Swanson go and Vaughn Grissom just slipping in there kind of coincided, obviously, with Grissom coming playing well, but also the Michael Harris contract at the same time. So people are just assuming, oh, of course, see you later, Dansby. But going back to that Freddie Freeman contract and how he left, I'm sure you've been asked this 1 billion times.
Just to go back to that, the Harris contract, I think it was because people assume that, there's another big guy that they sign. They can't sign everybody. But if you look at it, those 5 players, the most they're all going to make in any year where they're all in there together, this is remarkable. $77 million.
No, it's not.
The most those 5 guys are going to make. Now, you could count. There's a lot of teams that are going to be paying 2 players $77 million in 5 or 6 years. There's some that are paying them 2 right now that much. So anyway, sorry. And you're mentioning Olson, Riley, Albies, Acuna, and now Michael Harris. Yeah, the most they'll ever pay, the 5 of them combined, is $77 million.
Yeah, it's extremely low. They've got some low contracts, and I can see people already thinking about locking up Vaughn Grissom to a minuscule contract. But
they don't have to do that yet. But.
No, they've got time. But the fact that Freddie Freeman did go factors into re-signing Dansby Swanson, in your opinion? And
I do because I think you have to have some veterans who've been there the whole time and have that culture in mind. You can't just turn it over. Like I said, Olson and Riley are not real talkative guys. I mean, they're talkative guys amongst themselves, but they're not the boisterous, gung-ho leader type guys. Dansby has kind of become that. Darno has become more of that. And Darno's only signed for 1 more year. I think you run the risk of, if you think you can just keep bringing in the right guys, you're going to misfire on one of those guys probably. And if you just turn it over to the kids, you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you got to have the right guys in place to make sure those kids take their cues from the right guys. Dansby sets an incredible example for these guys. And if you think you're just going to stick a rookie next year, I think Vaughn Grissom probably still be a rookie, but a 22-year-old at shortstop playing alongside Austin Riley, Austin credits Dansby with helping him become the player he is today. He's constantly getting cues from Dansby, tips and advice from Dansby throughout the game. But if you think you're just going to turn the captainship of the infield over to a rookie and expect it just to continue, that's asking a bit much.
So what was the reason that Freddie ended up leaving, in your opinion?
Man, it's just a cluster F. It was just a perfect storm of things that go wrong, beginning with the Braves. I'll just try to boil it down. The Braves waited too long to make him a good initial offer because the Braves were waiting, coming off the pandemic season. They were waiting to see how the profits came back. They wanted to see the quarterly profits. They're a publicly owned company, so they get quarterly profit reports. They wanted to see how they were coming back before they made this long-term commitment to Freddie. They shouldn't have waited, but they did. The reports were terrific. I mean, they rebounded huge. Their attendance, they were one of the first few ballparks to take all the COVID restrictions off last year. So they ended up, I think, second in the majors in attendance. Then they make the run to the World Series. And by the time they get to the LCS, the place is booming, the place is packed. The Battery next door that they run, that retail entertainment and residential district that they run is doing bonkers every night. So they're raking in the dough. By the time then the pandemic, the lockdown hits, they're not supposed to talk to anybody during the lockdown. The Braves are being really sticklers about obeying MLB rules because of the thing with Capalella before Alex got here. When Capalella ends up getting banned for life, the Braves got in trouble. So they make sure they follow all these rules. And the other thing is, with them kind of having a dispute with Freddie's agent, the last thing they want is the agent to be able to tell MLB, oh yeah, they were calling us during the middle of the lockdown or whatever. So anyway, they didn't talk during the lockdown. Lockdown ends. Freddie's at that point frustrated because the Braves haven't made him what his agent and him don't believe they've made the kind of offer that Freddie's looking for. He wants that 6th year. They've only offered 5. And here we are at spring training. Well, Alex, if you know Alex Anthopoulos, he's a guy that always looks big picture, is never going to get caught with his pants down. And he knew that if they lose Freddie Freeman, the only guy available via trade or free agency that could legitimately replace Freddie's production was Matt Olson with Oakland. But the last thing Alex was going to have happen was, because Freddie's agent, from people I talked to and from other people who have reported this, gave Alex an ultimatum, gave him 2 offers. Take one of these 2 offers, or that's it. Well, neither one of the offers were anywhere close to what the Braves wanted to commit to Freddie at that point, right? Now, they probably would have come up some, and Freddie would have gladly taken one of those off, what the final offer they made, because he wanted to stay in Atlanta. But his agent didn't communicate what they were offering him. Alex, in the meantime, after he gets this ultimatum from the agent, Alex is like, well, I'm not going to have them leave us high and dry, and I don't have a guy. So he pivots to Olson because there's 3 or 4 other teams looking for Olson too. Well, it would have been easy for another team to come in and meet Oakland's asking price. Okay, we'll give you that prospect you've been looking for. And all of a sudden, Olson's off the board. And the Braves are left going, oh my, who's going to replace Freddie at first base?
You're not going to catch Alex Anthopoulos with his pants down.
No.
Never.
Never. He pivoted quickly, pulled the trigger on the Olson deal. Freddie was left like, what happened? Because Freddie didn't think that they would do that without coming back to him and giving him a chance, Mm-hmm. So that's what happened.
That's the best explanation I've heard. They should have taken a page out of the NBA's rules and just tampered, and talked to him throughout the lockdown.
Well, and Freddie kicks himself for not telling his agent clearly. He should have told his agent, in the end, whatever happens, in the end, take the best deal we can get from the Braves because that's where I want to be. Mm-hmm. So what happens? He ends up going back to L.A. He's from L.A., but he did not want to go home and play. He wanted to stay here. He loved it here. He wanted to be like Chipper, play his whole career here, be one of the Dale Murphy, Chipper Jones, one of the few guys that's, a legacy guy here. And so he ends up taking a deal with the Dodgers that gives him that 6th year, but with the deferred money in the contract, and with the twice as high state income tax in California, it ends up being the same or less money to play there than he would have gotten here. So it's really bad. I felt really bad for Freddie, but,
Good for the agent, though, probably.
Exactly.
It was an unfortunate situation for sure.
Who's since gotten fired by Freddie. So.
Right, yeah, as a result. So
that same agent as Dansby's got, by the way.
Right. And so I understand wanting to keep Dansby around. You bring up good points just about being in the infield, a different position, the heart of the infield as well. So interesting to see how they go forward. A couple questions before you go, David. You mentioned all those outfielders that they grabbed last year at the deadline. Soler, Rosario, Duvall, and Jock Peterson, and what a big role they filled. Robbie Grossman, definitely rose-colored glasses here, but watching Robbie Grossman, it's easy to see how that deadline acquisition, a mere few weeks ago, could result in the same sort of thing happening, where he is very important to this team. What has Robbie Grossman, a guy that people sort of, discarded as just some other acquisition at the deadline, what has he brought to the team?
Well, he's fit in perfectly in the clubhouse, which is always A1 with Alex. After the talent, they got to be a guy that fits in the clubhouse here. He just does not bring in bad guys. Grossman's fit in from day one. But the biggest thing was the Braves analytics people and the video people had already had an idea why Grossman was sucking so bad with Detroit this year, because he was not playing like he had in the past. When the Braves got him, he was hitting from the right side. They were going to use him in a platoon with Rosario in left field, just as a platoon guy. The first day he was here, though, the video and the analytics people come down to sites and go, look, this is what he's doing. They show him like stick figure videos, not stick figure, but, electronic stick figure. They show him clearly what he was doing different this year than he had in the past. They said, sites goes, normally I'd let you be here for a week or two, get to know you, get a feel for you before I dropped any of this on you. But we ain't got time to wait. We're trying to win a World Series. We're chasing the Mets. We need you to do this. Look it over. See what you think. Ask us any questions. And Grossman's like, I'm all in. I understand what you're talking about. Let's go try it. And they went in the cage. They work on it. Next thing you know, the guy's hitting home runs in back-to-back games against the Mets from the left side. So all of a sudden, he's not a platoon guy anymore. He's playing every day, basically. And with Rosario with his hamstring now, and with Marcell Ozuna, both a disaster on and off the field, it's really been big that Grossman is now hitting from both sides again and doing what he did with Detroit before this season. So he could end, like you said, he could end up being really big for them. At least holding that down until maybe they have to, do something with somebody else after Ozzy gets back. I'm not sure. Like I said, they could always send the kid to go play 5 games in AAA in left field and see if he gets a feel for it. He's such an athlete that I think Grissom could pick it up in a hurry. But Grossman has been real big. He's a one that everybody completely overlooked at the trade deadline. Another one of those deals that, like last year when they got Rosario, who was on the DL with Cleveland at the time, people were like, why are you getting Eddie Rosario? And they got him for nothing. They gave Pablo Sandoval to Cleveland. Sandoval at that point was completely done with the Braves. He'd had like 5 pinch hit home runs early in the season or 3 home pitch, and then nothing else. He was done. Cleveland took him and agreed they were just going to drop him as soon as they got him. It was a total salary dump for Cleveland, sending Rosario to the Braves. He ends up being the NLCS MVP for him, and they signed a 2-year deal in the offseason, really affordable deal. So, Alex has done some good moves. We'll see. The only one that's really blown up in his face is Marcell Ozuna extension. You're not going to hit on every one of them, man. And he's hit on far more than most GMs.
Yeah, you mentioned Ozuna. Just got to ask you about him. Charged with a DUI this week. Just over, I think it was like 14 months ago.
Yeah, 15 months.
15 domestic violence dispute. What do you think the Braves do with Marcell Ozuna?
Well, it's never been like them to eat a lot of money on a contract. I mean, they've found creative ways to get rid of guys like the Cuban third baseman they had years ago, that the prospect they got that ended up being not a good player at all, and they had to dump him after the long-term deal he had signed. With Ozuna, though, it's like it's not just that he's been bad; it's that he's got these unseemly, the domestic violence thing is. If it hadn't been for the Braves going on the run they did, that happening in June, the fans didn't even see him again till this year, and by then they've won a World Series. They're like, okay, what the hell? And so he comes back out, and they were willing to take him on again. But if it had happened in the middle of the season, and they tried to continue playing him, that'd have been one thing. But he got suspended for the rest of the year, and he was injured at the time it happened, that domestic violence thing. So, but this year, he's playing terrible. He's hitting barely his weight again. He's got a 600 OPS. The only thing he's done is hit 20 homers. I mean, that's no small feat, but he's played terrible defense, hit 213 or something. It's just not been good. So then he goes out after not playing for 4 days and gets arrested at 3:30 in the morning on a DUI charge in suburban Atlanta. And it just looks terrible. I mean, it looks awful. The same guy that had been on 6 months probation had those charges dropped because he entered a diversion program, and now the Braves are looking at, it's like I talked about this on our podcast. Okay, yeah, it's $41 million, but you're not in the same position you were at a year ago when you had a domestic violence thing. You owed him $53 million. You're now raking in the dough. You won a World Series. Attendance is booming. Profits are through the roof. You've signed these kids. You've signed all these guys to these long-term extensions. The way I look at it, if it's a bottom line thing, you don't want to give up $41 million. Look at the back end of some of these contracts like Acuna's, Riley's. You literally on Austin Riley are going to save more than $40 million in 2 years on the back end of his contract than what you would have paid him if he'd gone free agency. So to me, $41 million, yeah, it's a lot. But this guy's it's addition by subtraction with this guy at this point. And I think you got to do it. The other thing is, how about if you keep him? It was one thing you were taking on the risk after domestic violence of keeping him, and then something happens again like that. And then you look really bad. But now you're keeping him after a DUI. How about, God forbid, he goes out and has another one and somebody gets hurt? How bad is the organization going to look for looking the other way after the domestic violence, give him a second chance after the DUI, and then he goes out and does something like that? I think that all plays into the calculus now when you're figuring out what you got to do. And I don't think you can afford to take that risk.
Yeah, and his first game, since that, and
got booed today.
Yeah, he got booed here on Sunday as
lustily.
He started multiple times as he came.
And that doesn't happen in Atlanta. Atlanta's kind of like St. Louis; they don't boo their own.
Yeah, a couple times for sure. Well, let's end this interview here on a positive note because Mike Soroka, 25-year-old Canadian, he's back on the hill trying to rehab after being injured for a couple years. He's a 2019 All-Star. He's only 25 now.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about where he is in his comeback attempt and if he will contribute this season on the Braves team?
Well, I've gone from 2 weeks ago thinking, okay, they'll be lucky if he gets back and pitches a few innings in relief and feels good about himself. That way they can see him, know that next year he can be a factor, and they'll tender him a contract next season. I've gone from that to after he makes his first start last week was at High A Rome, and he was terrific, surpassed all expectations, pitched 4 innings, struck out 8 of the first 9 guys, gave up 1 hit, and that was like in the 4th inning, soft hit. No walks. I mean, he was outstanding. His sinker, he said it was as good as it's ever been. He said, I felt like I could get major league hitters out that night. Okay, so I go after that start, I'm thinking, okay, this guy can build on that. There's no reason he can't maybe be in the rotation at the end of the year. I mean, if he's got the 30-day rehab assignment, if they use the whole thing, he can build up, get up to about 80 pitches or whatever. Okay, so flash forward to today, he makes his second rehab start in AAA, and it's a lot more kind of realistic. I think he went 3 1/3, give up 6 hits, a couple of runs, no strikeouts today. Went from 8 strikeouts in 4 innings to none today. So somewhere in the middle is probably where he really is. So I think we'll need to see what he has in the next couple of starts. But this guy is super talented. He's done everything possible to get back from this. He's got a Achilles now that's twice been surgically repaired, 3 times, 2 times complete repair, but 3 surgeries in all. One was a cleanup. And it's so wrapped so much, they took a hamstring tendon from a cadaver, I think, and wrapped it so many times around the Achilles that really, I don't know that it's possible that it could even tear again. They wanted to make sure that, I mean, he doesn't run very fast now, but he never really did. He doesn't really need to do that. He's not going to be dunking any basketballs, but I think he's safe with that, knock on wood. And the arm is great. And it looks like he's put on 15 pounds of muscle. I mean, he's just really put together now, really well conditioned during this time. He's used it wisely. I think he could come back at the end of the year, and they're only going to need 4 starters for the playoffs.
Yeah, what do they do here?
You need 4 starters. Here's the thing: Strider's at 100 innings. He's already gone over his career high, but he's strong. He's in great shape. He incredible conditioned guy as far as stretching and all that. Strider doesn't think there's any reason why he needs to come out of the rotation, and the Braves say there's no innings limit. They're just going to monitor it. But if you had to, not as a demotion or anything, but they had Strider in the bullpen early on, and he was like a young Josh Hader going 2 innings, high leverage innings. If you have, because you got Max Fried, Charlie Morton, and Kyle Wright, that's 3 of the starters. If Soroka were to come back, or if Ian Anderson were to pitch well, down the stretch. But if Soroka were to come back and you're able to use him in a starting role, it's a big if. But if Ian Anderson does it, either one of them, you could move Strider to the pen for the playoffs and use that guy in multi-inning, high leverage, like the 8th and the 9th inning of a game if Kenley's down a game. Then you got Raisel Iglesias from the Angels, their closer too. You got him now too. But if you could use Strider, because the bullpen is showing a little wear and tear now. Some guys that were pitching really well have kind of started to show a little like Dylan Lee, Jackson Stevens, not quite as locked down as they were. Matzek's still trying to put it back together. So
Strider is a bit of a piggyback guy potentially.
I mean, that's a piece, man. You could put him in a bullpen and really alleviate a lot of pressure, because if you got that guy go in there and just said, let it eat, man, he's in there throwing 101 in 2-inning rolls. Because he's throwing 99 and 100 as a starter. Yeah. If he's in a bullpen for 2 innings, I mean, he's in there throwing 101, just blowing guys away. Because they can't catch up to his fastball. Coming from 5'11" or 6 foot where he is, and with that 6'6" extension, it's like another half-foot extension. He gets really low with these massive thighs he's got. And he comes in from like Kimbrel used to at Kimbrel's peak. And it's just a different angle in the fastball than these other guys that throw 100 are all 6'4". He's 6 foot, and he's got such spin on it. He's got really good spin on his fastball that he's got the visual effect of looking like it's rising. It's not actually rising, but that angle it's coming at, it's not going down, and he throws 101, so it's going straight. And guys just can't catch up to it. They're not used to seeing that angle at all, and he just blows guys away.
Yeah, people
He's impressive.
Continue to expect him to drop off because he was a reliever, because he was a 2-pitch guy, but
yeah, that ain't happening, man.
The heat is still flying by, guys. So that is interesting. But yeah, Mike Soroka really changes the calculus of a team.
We'll see.
That guy is phenomenal.
Starter too.
Yeah, he's not dunking basketballs, as you said, but there is a basketball tie. Good story. His dad is sending him videos of Kobe Bryant. And his mindset about when doubt sort of seeps in, or what he used to think of, and so that's helped him, get through these troubled times. As you said, twice torn Achilles tendon. It doesn't happen very often.
He's been through hell. Not many guys could get through that and maintain a positive outlook. This guy's one of the more positive guys you'll ever meet. It's a great guy, really affable dude. Just everybody loves him, and he has never gotten negative in this. If he did, he kept it to himself. I mean, 2 years of rehab. He has not pitched in the majors in 2 years.
He's Canadian.
2 complete tears.
He's just a good old Canadian boy.
He is, man. I haven't met too many Canadians I didn't like. They're good people.
I agree with you on that. Thank you, David, so much for coming on. Brave writer for The Athletic. 755 is Real podcast. Really appreciate it coming on, David.
All right. Thanks.
No problem at all. Quick break here. But if you want to hear about a reporter injuring himself on a slide, stay tuned.
So, Tess, around here, when the kids need anything new, and I happen to have the thing that they need, I just give them my old thing, and I get the new version for myself, right? Like
that's life.
Like an iPhone, for example.
Like
I'm not buying a kid a brand new iPhone. I'm getting myself the brand new iPhone. They get my used one. Socks, another one. I just give them my old Stancers, my Stance socks.
Excuse me?
That's right. If they need socks, they get my old socks. Their feet are bigger than mine now, so why not?
Ugh.
Yeah, it's a little gross. But hey, ever heard of laundry?
No.
No, yeah. And the latest thing is a mattress. That's right. We gave Jackson our old king-size midnight mattress from Helix and got ourselves a brand new one. And for those of you who somehow missed it, Helix Sleep is a premium mattress brand that provides tailored mattresses based on your unique sleep preferences. The Helix lineup includes 14 unique mattresses, including a collection of luxury models. And that's what we went for this time. Yeah, last time I took the quiz, and they gave me a choice between the Midnight and the Midnight Luxe.
Right.
It was a freebie. I was feeling shy. I was like, just give me the cheaper one.
Man.
You know, like,
You damn Canadian.
I know. But this time, paying for it for myself, so I went Lux, baby. I took the quiz again. It only took 2 minutes, just to see if I had changed at all. I hadn't. My sleep habits are the same. I like it semi-firm. I sleep on my side, on my back, and sometimes on my stomach. So I move around a lot, yeah. So it's great. Helix mattresses are American-made and come with a 10 to 15-year warranty, depending on the model. And guess what? You get to try it out for 100 nights, risk-free. Yeah, if you don't love it, but you will. But if you don't, they'll pick it up, and they'll give you a full refund, which apparently Lee did. He just lay on the thing for a couple of nights, and he was just like, not for me. So he got a refund, and good for him.
Yeah.
And good for Helix, because they did it. No questions asked. Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Don't sleep on this offer, and do sleep on a Helix mattress. Go to helixsleep.com/nodunks. With Helix, better sleep starts now.
Welcome back to No Bunts. I did want to say, before we get to the 5 best things in baseball, that one of the best things in baseball this week was watching Albert Pujols and his 42-year-old swing hit 2 dingers in one game, becoming the oldest player in MLB history to have 2 dingers and 4 hits in one game. But I already had my 5 best things in baseball planned. Couldn't stray from it whatsoever. So, JD, let's get to the 5 best things in baseball this week. And we kind of had a theme. They're all sort of quirky. They weren't real baseball type stuff. So
Right.
had to go with it. We love themes here.
Yeah, you're right. We do.
It's kind of tied together, I guess. At number 1, a cell phone dropped out of the pocket of a player as he slid headfirst into third base. This is real. Kind of surprised that it doesn't happen a little bit more often in sports, period. But it's clear that this gentleman's pocket, Rodolfo Castro of the Pittsburgh Pirates, was carrying his cell phone in his back pocket as he slid headfirst into third because it slipped out. He had no idea that it slipped out of his pocket. It hit the base. The umpire noticed and said, hey, you. He was going to tell the coach, but I guess the coach was kind of walking away, so he told Castro. I got to ask you, JD, do you think there was any punishment for this?
Punishment for the player?
Yeah, who else would there be punishment for? I guess the team, I suppose.
Yeah. No, I would say no. Was there?
Yeah.
What?
1 game, suspended 1 game and fined for violating MLB policy.
Wow. Well, as a father with 2 kids who have phones, I'd give them 5 games. On the field with your phone. What do you need your phone for?
I don't think you need it.
It's pathetic.
It's
What's that screen? What? Check his screen time. Check it. Like
monitor if he had it open.
Or just in general. If it's over like 3 hours a day,
Well,
take it away.
I was going to say you can monitor minute by minute if he had it, what he was looking at in the dugout.
Exactly.
He was definitely looking at something because he had his phone on the field. But as we heard, Trevor May, New York Met, came on the show a couple months ago. Guys look at their phones. Or actually, he was more responsible, and he would summon a coach and say, hey, you, go find something out for me.
Right.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
You're a baseball player.
You can't get a coach to check your Instagram, though.
No?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Can't check your DMs?
I just mean scroll in general. Anything interesting on there, man?
What's interesting is that we had 2 wedgies in baseball this week. Now, they're both minor league wedgies.
Still count, I think.
Yeah, these are very different types of wedgies. For the first one, in front of the plate, a ball got stuck directly in the dirt in front of the plate, and it didn't move.
Wow.
Just like a foot in front of the plate. I guess it was sopping wet there or something, and the catcher went and picked it up. They called it fair, and he was out.
I mean, it's fair.
If I'm not mistaken.
It is fair, right?
Yeah. It's fair.
I mean, it's not fair as in life isn't fair.
No.
But according to the rules of baseball, as far as I know, it's a fair ball.
Yeah. Hey, you follow the rules. You always have.
As you know, I'm a serial rules follower.
The second wedgie was Jays prospect, Gabriel Moreno, blasted a ball, and it got stuck directly in the fence. Not in the seams of the fence, but right in the fence. It made a new hole in the fence, and the left fielder played it smart. He played by the rules, put his hands up and said, hey, I can't play it. I can't pull that ball out. It's a ground rule double. It's a smart move, because if he starts grabbing at it and he can't get it out for some odd reason, then Moreno could run the bases and it's a live ball or whatever. But two wedgies, one stuck in front of the plate, one, made a new hole in the wall. It's our third wedgie of the season, because we had another instance in Major League Baseball where the ball was stuck sort of in the seam of the fence and right above it. So there are wedgies. There are wedgies in basketball and baseball, obviously.
Let's get a wedgie tracker on it. I think we should count them all.
And we should. Moving on now, Albert Pujols probably should have replaced this one here, if we're being honest. But I was excited because the Blue Jays' Ross Stripling, he came back. The Jays have needed another pitcher. We talked about Jose Barrios. He's been struggling. Well, Ross Stripling came back to fortify the rotation. He had a great game out there, and head coach or manager John Schneider said after the game, you can call him Bob Ross. He was painting. Wow. Well done, John Schneider. Ross Stripling, now nicknamed Bob Ross by his manager, of all people. You don't usually see the manager with a quip like that. A very, very funny one. So we got the Photoshop, obviously, of Ross Stripling as Bob Ross. Yeah, from Andy on Twitter, _rallycap. Beautiful. A beautiful ode to both Ross Stripling and Bob Ross.
It's a bit of a boomer nickname, let's be honest. I think.
I don't know.
Isn't it? Is Bob Ross universal?
Yeah, I think he came back.
Yeah.
It's been a bit. I mean, well before his passing, 5, 7, 8 years. Was it a pandemic thing? I think people were just into Bob Ross for a while.
It's true, actually. Yeah, he did. Well, I think he was on Netflix, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So he came back. I definitely watched a few of those episodes. Very relaxing.
Very relaxing.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Okay, this one we mentioned earlier. A reporter got injured, unfortunately. So, backstory, when the Milwaukee Brewers hit a home run, their mascot goes down a slide beyond the left field fence.
Okay.
That's their home run celebration. The Dodgers were visiting, and Dodgers reporter for Sportsnet LA, David Vassay, wanted to do it. He was so pumped to go down the slide himself. So he did. And I first saw it when he went down. He's yelling, holy, and he collides with the wall immediately. And it's a short slide. It's like one curve, but it's pretty quick, and he's going pretty fast, and he kind of gets twisted around, and he goes shoulder directly into the mat, and then he jumps back on. He doesn't miss a game or anything. He shows up and does his report, and there's a funny clip of him saying, "Hey guys," as he raises his broken wrist.
God.
He's got a cast on his broken wrist from that slide. Not only did he break his wrist, but he cracked 6 ribs. Can you believe that?
No, I can't, because it looks so innocuous.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he hits the wall pretty hard, but it's all padded and stuff. But if you look, he's definitely in an awkward position when he hits the wall. I mean, it's
no, he's in a vulnerable position,
and all his body weight is right up against that wrist. I mean, the wrist, I'm not surprised, but the ribs, and he's clutching his ribs there too. It's
now seeing it again, I could see how his wrist got kind of
got behind him, and all his body weight goes into it. It's a funny shot though, with the cast.
Yeah, it is very funny. Yeah, it's not funny talking about a man breaking his wrist and 6 ribs, but he made it funny afterwards.
No, it's the bounce back that's the best thing.
Yes.
It's not the actual.
No. Well, that part's funny. Come on, let's. But I guess it wasn't regular human proofed, that slide. No. I guess because it's a mascot who goes down it.
And as we know, having met, the basketball mascots are super athletes. We meeting Benny the Bull that time, and the Raptor is one of our faves. I mean, these guys are elite athletes, so they're used to it, and stunt people really, and they know how to. You can't just go down a slide like that. It's not. I don't think that slides to code, right?
You can't just go down a slide. It's a slide.
Yeah, well, obviously not. He broke 6 ribs and his wrist. I never feel bad for mascots. Like we had Kenny Beecham on earlier this year. He threw out a first pitch of the White Sox game. Yeah. They told him, don't throw it too hard to the mascot who's your receiver because he can't really see out of his eyes, the head.
Yeah, but if you hit him in the head, it's not going to hurt.
No, but it's going to look bad.
Oh, I suppose.
But yeah, you're right. He's not going to, I don't know. Is he wearing a cup?
Who knows? That's a great question, JD. I was, since I've been playing softball, I saw a stray cup on the pavement.
As you do.
Yeah, exactly. It was so odd. So odd to see a cup out there in the wild, just left there. You think I picked it up?
I think you did, and you filled it with water and took a sip. Because after your marathon, you were so thirsty.
Well done, JD. Also, well done to the Giants' Joey Bart, who had the perfect bunt. And he's a catcher as well, laying down a bunt. And it was perfect because it rolled down the third baseline and it made direct contact with the base. The third baseman, I guess, had so much respect for Joey Bart's speed that he didn't even try and make the play. He thought, I'm going to try and let it go foul. Yeah. I guess Joey Bart's a fast catcher. I mean, I brought that up because, in my day, catchers didn't lay down bunts to try and have a base hit, but it was the perfect bunt. It's no bunts here, so I had to include it. It hits the base. It's a base hit, baby, through and through. So a pretty beautiful bunt.
Since we started this show, there's actually been a lot of bunt talk ever since we started.
There's no doubt about it.
It comes up a lot more than I thought it would.
Yeah, part of the name is in the name is the fact that I love bunts. I've always loved the art of the bunt.
Yeah.
So it was inevitable.
The few times that I've played, I've always thought, okay, I'd be really good at it because you can hold the bat up. You choke up on it and just sort of lean into it, put your body in front of it.
Yeah. It's hand-eye coordination. It's not like you don't have to be that fluid with the bat.
No. You just sort of have to knock it down.
Yeah, you're catching it, really. It's fun. It's fun. I miss it. I think bunts are way down.
Do you bunt in softball?
No, it's softball,
Well, I don't know.
No, it's not competitive. I guess you call it competitive, but you're not bunting to sacrifice yourself to get other people out, or trying to get on base. You swing the softball stick.
Right.
There's none of that.
Okay.
I wonder. No, I'd say even in fast pitch softball, there's bunting actually. No, there's bunting in fast pitch softball, if I'm not mistaken. So
there you go.
A fair question.
Thank you. I'm learning every day on this show. I'm learning.
No, but I play beer league softball. So no. Anyways, thank you to Chris Kirschner for coming on the show. That was fantastic. Thank you to David O'Brien for coming on the show. You can read both of their stuff at The Athletic. Make sure to check out No Breaks. Is This Good? And we've got a No Dunks episode about NBA Jam duos coming this week, so be sure to check that out. But for now, Clipper Bros.
You heard it here first. Have a great time. Turn up. Love you guys. Awesome.
Thanks for joining us, and remember, the uglier your feet, the more shit you've seen.
Embrace the bunts, people.